Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK journey video. So the Pioneer server went live just like an hour after I uploaded my skill speculation video on ATHALIA. Now we have her full skills with their multipliers that we're going to be going through and trying to figure out where she will be useful and how good she will be. First of all though, I'm going to show you the new feature version 133. You can take a look at the ultimate animation cutscene just from this page over here, even if you have them turned off in battle. And definitely this looks really cool. So beginning with the ultimate ability of ATHALIA, Unbroken Retribution, it will begin with 0 prefill energy. A passive: when ATHALIA is defeated, her unyielding resolve manifests as a lance that continues to attack enemies on the battlefield with her attack reduced by 50%. This is just the strangest idea I have for an ability. Basically, even when you kill her, she's not actually going to be dead. She's going to remain on the battlefield. We don't know if she'll be able to cast her skills while she's in this state or not, but her attack is going to be heavily reduced down by 50%, which honestly I feel like is a pretty big reduction. I don't know how useful she will be if she dies. And the other thing I don't know about is if Cryonia freezes her in her frozen domain, I would imagine that is just going to instantly defeat her, because like, you know, these other heroes who have these passives or revivals, they don't work against Cryonia. So we were thinking that ATHALIA would counter Cryonia, but maybe in fact Cryonia still does counter ATHALIA to an extent. But let's see the active ability. So ATHALIA leaps into the air, strikes the enemy with the highest cumulative damage dealt, dealing up to 200% attack multiplier, plus ultimate power from the charms, true damage, plus extra true damage, equal to 30% of all enemies' total HP loss she has recorded. The extra true damage cannot exceed 1,500% of her own attack. Enemies hit are knocked down for 0.5 seconds, and ATHALIA remains invincible while casting this skill, which means she will be untargetable by control effects and immune to all damage. After using this skill, she resets her record of enemies' HP loss to 0. Now, the thing about this is going to be targeting one specific enemy, right? Strikes one enemy. But the enemies hit are going to be knocked down by 0.5 seconds. So I don't know if there's going to be an area of effect of this ultimate, because she is just targeting one enemy with this, the enemy who has dealt the highest damage. But the crazy thing is that these multipliers are pretty insane. Like, it will be like her base multiplier of 270% true damage. That's nothing special. However, the bonus of up to 1,500% of her attack as additional true damage, if enemies have lost enough health, that is pretty high. And this was also a thing you need to think about for Dream Realm, because in Dream Realm and Endless bosses, the boss is going to lose so much health that you're always going to be hitting this cap every time she casts her ultimate. But the thing is, 1,500% of her attack plus this 270%, is that going to be enough only every time she casts her ultimate to actually be useful in Dream Realm? We saw with Valka, the problem was she looked amazing because she had true damage of 800% 3 times, right? I think 2,400% attack multiplier, true damage each time she cast her ultimate, and her ultimate only costed her like 100 energy to cast. And so we thought she was going to be really meta for Endless Dream Realm, but she wasn't. So ATHALIA, the fact that she does this huge true damage, but it is only on her ultimate cast, she begins with 0 prefill energy. I honestly don't think this is going to be enough to make her meta relevant for Dream Realm, but we'll have to see from testing. But yeah, I think she's gonna have the same issue as Valka basically, because this is not HP per second damage. If this was like HP per second damage, it would just be like she is the must-have hero. But because it's true damage, I think as of right now, it still doesn't seem like this is enough to give her relevancy in Dream Realm, because it is very similar to Valka's ultimate, and Valka, as you guys know, is not a top tier option in Dream Realm. Basically, because HP per second damage dealers are way better than true damage dealers in Endless bosses. Okay, moving on to skill 2, Vengeance Charge. So this is a charge skill, as you can see here. ATHALIA targets the enemy with the highest cumulative damage dealt again, and what will be the initial cooldown? 4 initial cooldown. So it's not going to be first strike like Sylvina from the first second of the match. You're going to have to wait 4 seconds before you trigger this skill, and that is what I'm worried about. Because other than that, she's just going to be kind of wandering around aimlessly before she can actually lock onto an enemy. So ATHALIA targets the enemy with the highest cumulative damage dealt and dashes to the tile behind them. The dash deals up to 400% of her attack damage to the target, and the same amount of damage to enemies in its Oh wait, the 280% damage to enemies in his path, that damage is not going to be increased by the levels of the skill up. This is only increasing the damage up to the target. Okay, but the path is going to be 280%. ATHALIA is invincible during the dash. Now, we don't know how long this dash is going to take. I would imagine it would be pretty quick, probably 0.5 to 1 second. So like this invincibility probably is only useful in the fact that it will like change maybe the targeting. Like rather than having them locked onto ATHALIA, they will switch focus onto another hero, but doesn't seem like, even though both her ultimate and her vengeance charge give her invincibility, it seems very brief and that it won't actually be like a huge survival mechanism. And this is on a 9-second cooldown overall. Moving on to skill 3, Vanguard's Renewal. This is on a 10-second cooldown. It will begin with 5 initial cooldown. ATHALIA transforms into a lance, striking adjacent enemies 6 times. I just find it weird that she turns into a lance. Lance is just a weapon. Like, is this also how she works in AFK Arena? I don't know. But, like, it just seems strange to me that she just turns her whole body into just lance. ATHALIA transforms into a lance, striking adjacent enemies 6 times. Okay. With each hit dealing 20% up to 35% damage. So 6 times 35%, that is going to be around 210% attack multiplier to all enemies. And this is going to be with the 1 tile range, right? That just adjacent enemies. Doesn't seem really high damage. While casting the skill, ATHALIA becomes unaffected, immune to all control effects, reduces damage taken by 60%, and recovers health. So the real key thing about this skill is not the damage, it's the fact that she becomes unaffected, immune to control, and she reduces damage taken by a huge amount, up to 60%, and she recovers HP equal to 150% of her attack multiplier. So you really want to cycle this skill as fast as possible, like with haste, for example, to allow her to keep recasting this. Yeah, so interesting skill. It's kind of actually a defensive skill rather than an offensive skill. I don't think the damage is going to be anything amazing out of this one. Moving on to the hero focus, increases crit by 12. Okay, maximum increases crit by 20 during battle. When dealing damage to the enemy with the highest cumulative damage dealt, crit is further increased by 50. This is kind of like the Lenya effect that when she locks on with a duel, she gets those bonuses. So ATHALIA is going to have up to 70 crit when she is attacking the enemy with the highest cumulative damage dealt, and she has 2 abilities to reposition her to begin attacking the enemy who is dealing the highest amount of damage, her ultimate and her vengeance charge. So there is synergy there, and high amount of crit will increase her damage output, so it does seem pretty good. Moving on to her Mythic Plus ability, or exclusive equipment, Divine Verdict. Every second use of vengeance charge, ATHALIA's dash simultaneously unleashes sacred slashes, striking the 2 straight paths with the most enemies. Okay, so they're just gonna be like lines basically here. As you can see here, they're just 3 lines. With the most enemies, each slash deals 200% attack multiplied damage to all enemies in the path. These slashes prioritize straight paths that do not overlap with the dash path of the vengeance charge that triggers them. Okay, so basically, she's going to charge in a direction, and then in the 2 other directions on the map, because in total there are 3 straight paths, right? That you can see here, there are 3 different straight paths. So the 2 other ones, that is where she's going to prioritize hitting enemies with these basically slashes. And every second use of vengeance charge. So you're definitely going to want her to have as low cooldown as possible. So more haste as possible is going to be good for her. Twins give haste. Damien Toy Cherry gives haste. These are things that probably will have good synergy with ATHALIA to allow her to keep spamming this skill and get more value off. And with the upgrade of the exclusive equipment up to level 3, increases the skill damage dealt to 280% rather than 200%, but no new unique skill effect even at the plus 10 upgrade. And at the plus 15 upgrade, while casting Vengeance Charge, ATHALIA increases her execution by 50. That means her damage is going to be increased by 50% onto enemies with below 50% health. That is going to set her up for executing a lot of enemies. Whenever she assists or defeats an enemy or uses her ultimate, the cooldown of Vengeance Charge resets immediately. So now there's a lot of synergy. When she gets an assist or defeat, she gets a recast of Vengeance Charge, and that is our second cast of Vengeance Charge is going to deal these extra damage sacred slashes into these 2 different straight paths, and every second use of it, not just the first second use of it, every second use of it. And each assist or defeat is going to reset the cooldown, and also when she uses her ultimate, it's going to reset the cooldown, and she's invincible while casting it. And then finally her enhanced force, vengeance charge and sacred slash can reduce the target's shield value up to 800% attack multiplier. And that, I feel like that is just going to be a raw reduction. Like, for example, if the enemy, like, this is also going to be a bit of a counter to Cryonaya, because Cryonaya, she has a 3000% attack multiplier, frost shield or whatever it is, and ATHALIA will probably cut through that with an 800% attack multiplier. 800% of her own attack multiplier, I would imagine, is just immediately deducted from that shield. And Vengeance Charge and Sacred Slash both will reduce this. So basically, ATHALIA is going to be actually a shield breaker, because she has AoE attacks with her Sacred Slash, and Vengeance Charge is going to be towards the highest cumulative dealt damage target, and so these are going to be reducing those shields. However, currently in the meta, I don't feel like shielding is a real PvP like sort of toolkit as of right now. You do have Coco, but Coco isn't really top tier. Yeah, you have Cryonaya, that's really the only one that comes to mind. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think there's any other major shielder use. I guess Surging Spell Artifact, this is going to counter that to an extent. So, but I think for the future, maybe if more shielders become meta relevant, then there will be more value of ATHALIA. So overall, ATHALIA's kit has a lot of synergy. However, honestly, I think she's looking purely like a PvP hero. I might be wrong. However, the true damage, even at maximum, is going to be 1500% plus is 270. That's only 1000, almost 800% attack multiplier. Valka, if we just look at Valka right now, we can find her. Valka has 800% times 3 on her ultimate ability, and you guys have seen how useless basically she is in Dream Realm. Like, look, when used actively, increase the damage of each of the first 2 slashes to enemies' maximum health, and then damage of the final slash, and it will be capped at 800%. And so in total, that's 2400%, 3 times 800. Each time she uses their ultimate, but it does wait for panic stacks to apply onto the enemy target. So I don't know, maybe if you can cycle ultimates rapidly enough, like with the twins and energy boosting onto ATHALIA, maybe potentially this true damage could be meaningful for Dream Realm. But honestly, I feel like she's probably going to be more of a PvP hero. The only other thing to keep in mind is that maybe she could be Harak food for Dream Realm. Like, you use ATHALIA, she gets off one ultimate, then Harak eats her, and then she comes back to life as a lance and continues to deal damage or something like that. I don't know if that is going to work or not. We're going to have to do all that testing later on, and I'll try to upload more videos today testing her in PvP and Dream Realm. But for right now, I'm thinking that she's mostly a PvP hero, which is a sigh of relief. Basically, people can breathe a sigh of relief if you are a free-to-play or light spender player and you didn't want another meta celestial Hypogean that needed to be built. This will give you the opportunity to save for next season, for example. But she's looking interesting in PvP, but I don't know. The problem I have with her, she still has survival issues, even though she has all of these invincibilities from her skill casting, and she does turn back into the lance at 50% reduced attack after she takes fatal damage. However, I think that 50% reduced attack probably will just make her not really useful for much, and so like when she dies, she's basically gone. Not going to provide any game-changing impact to your team from that point on. So yeah, and also she's not proactive enough. She waits for the enemy to deal damage, and then she jumps onto the highest cumulative damage dealt enemy. And so if you crowd control her from the beginning of the fight, or if you have a massive nuking onto her, I don't know how good she's going to be. I think definitely with faction talents, like the Wilder faction talent, she's going to be a good potentially, or maybe even Graveborn to begin getting kills quickly. However, she does seem a lot more like Harak in that she needs to ramp up. She is not like, for example, from second one out of the gate like Sylvina bursting down an enemy, and that is what I was hoping for with ATHALIA, and she is not that. So overall, let me know your opinions on ATHALIA in the comment section down below. We'll definitely try to do testing and upload videos of that later on today. But thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. If you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please smash that subscribe button. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. But thank you guys for watching. I'll hopefully see you in the next video. And until then, everyone, peace out for now.